Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Matthew, and today we're going to be talking about creating your own CSS framework. And we're going to start with the first element that we're going to be adding to this framework, and that is the button element. Alright, so just to get things started in creating our framework, we're going to need a couple of basic styles and design decisions made. So one of those being creating a color scheme. So I'm going to go ahead and use this awesome app called Coolors. That's at coolors.co. That's coolors.co. I'll be sure to link it in the description so you can click it quickly. But it's just a really awesome free app that allows you to create and save color schemes. It really does a lot of the groundwork for you and suggests great color combinations. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. I'm going to speed myself up, and you guys are going to kind of see how easy it is to create color schemes. Alright, so I've got four colors that I want. I'm going to be taking this greenish color, and then the yellow, brown, and red. And we're going to take these and actually put them into our application once we create it. So, right now, I'm going to run over to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to stop the app that I'm currently running. And I'm going to go ahead and open a parent folder. This happens to be the one, and we're going to go ahead and create a new React application where we're going to be storing our actual front-end framework. So I'm just going to do npx create React app, and I'm going to name this css-lib. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, so go ahead and wait for a couple seconds as it's creating. After this, we're going to go ahead and install a couple more packages, and I'll get back to you once this initial download is done. Alright, so now we have the base project all up and ready. I'm going to go ahead and cd into it using the VS Code terminal. And here I'm actually going to install just one dependency. I'm just going to go ahead and use the npm install node Sass dependency. Hit enter. This will probably take a couple of minutes if you're following along, so I'll get back to you once it's done installing. Alright, we've got everything installed that we need to. We're going to go ahead and jump into the new application folder and do some cleanup. So I'm just going to open a folder here. And we are learning. Awesome. Alright, so we're just in a standard create React app setup. We're going to go into source, and we're immediately going to be deleting a couple things. We're going to delete the index page, or the index.css, not the actual index.js. I'll delete the logo as well. And I'm going to be changing app.css to app.scss. In app, we're going to be importing app.scss instead of app.css. I'm going to go ahead and delete everything inside of app. And in app.css, we are going to be deleting everything in here as well. As a means just to create our initial structure, we're going to create a new folder called SCSS, where we're going to hold our framework. And we're going to create a couple of files. First, we're going to create a reset.scss. We're also going to create global variable file, some global variables, and then lastly we're going to create a button style sheet where we're going to hold our button styles. I'm going to go ahead and import all of those into our app.scss, and we're just going to do so with global variables first. After that, we're going to just go ahead and import the reset styles. And lastly, we're going to do the button styles. So now we have 3 files that are all being imported into our main app.css file, and we have included those into our app.js file. Now we're going to go ahead and just create some real boilerplate elements. We're going to create a button, and we're going to give it a class of btn, which is what we're going to be naming button in our framework. And I'm just going to put submit as the button text. Now, our framework, we want to really standardize just about anything that we give this class. We want it to all appear the same. So we're going to do some tests where we are going to use a link as well, and just make sure that the styling is the same here. Put link there. Use input. Make the type button. And then last but not least, we're going to use a block level element like a div. And that is our initial markup that we're going to be using. We just have 4 different tags inside of our main app. We're going to go ahead and get started on creating some of the variables. And so I'm going to go into global. One thing that we want to do is we want to make our buttons really themable, so we can easily insert styles and just values for common button properties inside of this global variable sheet, just so that we can easily make things really different but maintain continuity throughout the application. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a title here, and I'm just going to name it theme variables. And one thing that's our buttons are going to introduce that's going to be consistent throughout the application is color. So we're going to create a dictionary in Sass that has a color, and we're just going to do use a couple of colors here for common button behaviors. So we've got a confirm, and for this we're going to put a light blue color, and then we are also going to have success color, and for this we're going to do a light green, and these should be comma separated and not semicolon separated. And we're going to have a caution. I'm going to be using a lot of light colors here. They're not going to be the prettiest. But we're going to use light yellow. And then we'll also do a warning color. And we'll do just plain old red for that. Now we also, earlier we went to colors and we created this style sheet. So we're going to take a couple of these colors and also add them to the color dictionary here. We may end up eventually splitting stuff out a little bit more, but for now we're just going to go with brown. At least I think maybe this was the green. Yeah, this is green. So here are more of our theme colors. We're just going to do brown. And just go grab that. And then we're also going to grab red and yellow as well. Awesome, so we have all of our colors imported into this variable called theme color. Now we're going to bounce back over to the buttons, and we're going to add some button specific variables. It's going to be like button padding, which we're going to make 0.5 rem, 1 rem as a default. Also going to need button margin, which by default is going to be half a rem. And then we're going to do button border radius. So we're going to start at 0. We're also going to have a variable called button types, and we're going to have a fluid button type and a rounded button type. And then we'll also have a generic button, but we won't be adding that to this list. And also have actually, never mind. We're just going to stick with the fluid and rounded buttons. So we're going to create an include. We're going to call this one button reset. And this include is just really going to standardize our button styles so that whatever we give the this include to as a mix-in into like a class for button, no matter what element that we are using our class on, it's going to style it consistently. So I'm just going to hurry and build this out real quick. Alright, so I just quickly imported this in, but it is our button reset mix-in / include, and we're setting some things consistent here. So we're making sure whatever we're applying this to is by default is going to be an inline element. It's going to make it inline, and we're going to be applying the button padding, the button margin, the button border radius, and then we have a couple of variables that we haven't yet specified in here. In fact, I am not going to. Actually, I will. I'll create them. So, the button font, and we're just going to do sans serif. And then for button font size, we're going to keep it pretty basic, just 16 pixels initially. And then we're going to do button font color, set this equal to black. Alright, so as you can see here, we kind of have a structure here. We're handling display first, and then we're handling margin padding. We've gone into border and background, and then we are taking care of all of our typography. After that, we're using any properties that come after that in no particular order. Alright, I'm going to be adding a couple more elements in here. I'm going to be going and getting them from an external resource that where I've already created these things, just copying and pasting them into here, and then I'll go through and explain them. Alright, we are back, and there was one thing that I did wrong that I just realized after I was referencing the code that I completed before this, is that I did have include in here for on the button reset, when it really is only used in include when you're actually including it into a class or some other CSS rule. It actually should be mix-in when it is being defined and created. So I changed that. I also created here our mix-in for the actual button, so it is going to apply conditional styles based on what we're passing it. And here, as you guys can see, we're passing basically the type that we want to grab the conditional styles for. Then we are including our reset. so all of our normalizing styles. And then for the round button, we're applying a 50 pixel border radius, and we are standardizing that padding to 1 rem. This is ideal for icons or really circular buttons that you want to have. Fluid is going to set the display property from inline to block, so it'll span the whole width of the page. And we're also giving a width of 100% just to ensure that that happens. Then for our normal element, if it isn't any of these, it actually doesn't need to even have an else specified there because we already do have our padding supplied up here. So we're including this mixin in here. For our initial class of button, we just have btn include the button, and then we're actually passing variables in for fluid and round buttons. So we have kind of the basics down, but we also want to make sure we can color these buttons appropriately. So we're going to be creating a new file, and it's going to be a utilities file. And I'm just going to run over here to the app, make sure we can import it. And we're going to create just some real helper classes for our colors to set background color. So I'm going to paste in here a class, and we're actually going to get the access from the theme colors. Let me just double check that real quick. Alright, theme colors. So we're back in our utilities file, and here we're going to go with background color, and we're taking the name, so it's going to be like, let's look at the global variables. Our class is going to contain the confirm, success, caution, warning, green, brown, yellow, and red, and then it's also going to basically be setting the background color, and we're also going to be setting the text color using a special function. I'm going to run over and grab that right now. This function is awesome. It's actually straight from the SAS documentation, so if you Google how to dynamically set text value based on background color, it's just a really awesome function that you can plug in. I'll definitely be linking, putting a link in the description below for you to check it out. But here we're just wanting to set the text color based on the background color. If the lightness of that color is over a certain range, we want to make sure we apply a dark text color. Otherwise, we want to apply a light text color. And that's what this conditional logic is doing. Here we are using that function, set text color, and passing it the value of our background color. We're also making sure to set these as important because they're just utility classes. If we're going to be applying these, then we definitely want them to override anything that's already set in place. So generally I wouldn't recommend using an import. It's just against best practice, but in this case it's a necessity and you can actually use it and it's justifiable. So we're going to go ahead and save this and actually see if our application runs. So moment of truth. Alright, so we did have a couple errors in there. I forgot to delete some of the imports that were being imported from the boilerplate and the index page. So if you got an error, be sure to check your index page, make sure you've removed those imports that you're not using and that don't exist in your directory. And looking here, I noticed that I actually haven't added text to all the links, so I'm going to go back to our app.js and make sure we add in block element. I'm going to set a value to the input element as an input so that we'll be able to distinguish them. And we have them all, and it seems to appear that they're all behaving correctly. We just have the reset applied. We haven't given it any color yet, so we're going to go ahead and apply that color now. Alright. And it seems to me that they are working correctly. Because these are inline right now, they don't have margin above or below. They just have it to the left and the right. That is why we were seeing that strange behavior on a mobile device. So just keep that in mind when you're doing top and bottom margins for button elements. Right now they are just inline. This is all very light and kind of hard to see. I guess that is kind of an ineffective button. But here you can really easily see how our lighting function is applying styles to buttons based on how bright the background color is. So this has been our tutorial on creating dynamic themable buttons. Feel free to go through all of those attributes and start tinkering with things and changing your themes so that your buttons are different. There's a lot of customization that you can do with this setup. I hope you found it beneficial, and I would encourage you, if you like this video, to like it and to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also, if you're interested in receiving updates, you can go ahead and visit Facebook, where I post updates on a weekly and sometimes bi-weekly basis. So feel free to follow that Facebook page. It'd be very much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.